Joined. Joined.
Trustee Miller?
Joined. Joined.
Good evening, everyone. We're about to get started, but I'll just give it one more minute to let people join.
Joined.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just remind you to put yourself on mute if you haven't done so. I'm happy to call our meeting to order for Board Monday, March the 15th, 2021. This is Dawn Danko as Chair. I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement. The Hamilton-Wentworth District School Board acknowledges our presence on ancestral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee Confederacy land as determined by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty. The intent of this agreement is for all nations sharing this territory to do so responsibly, respectfully, and sustainably in perpetuity. We respect the long-standing relationships with the local Indigenous communities, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and the Six Nations of the Grand River. At this time, we will play O Canada. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 3, we'll do our meeting roll call. Noting I have regrets from Trustee Bingham, Trustee Paikin-Miller, and Sagawanagalver.Segi. Is Kathy Archer with us?
Present.
Thank you, Trustee Archer. Trustee Buck?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Deese?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Galindo?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Johnstone?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Miller?
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mulholland?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Tutt?
Here.
Thank you. Student Trustee Hessler?
Present.
Thank you. Student Trustee Zakar?
Present.
Thank you. And I'll just double check. Sagawanagalver.Segi, are you on the line? I don't believe she's able to join us tonight. Thank you, everyone. And just as I go into this meeting, I'll just do a quick reminder for remote meeting norms. Make sure you're on mute unless you're called on to speak. It sounds like someone may not be on mute, so if you can just check that, that would be helpful for the audio quality. Please direct all your comments and questions through the chair so I can direct them. And as we have a number of reports, if there's an action item, I'll go through the roll call to see if there are questions. If it's monitoring, I'll open the floor to questions, and I'll ask you to unmute yourself and let me know you'd like to speak, and I'll create a speakers list and then go to the speakers list. So for moving an item, I will select a mover and seconder as needed. If you're not okay with moving or seconding a particular item that I've called your name for, please just unmute yourself and state this, and I can select someone else. For voting, we'll go to a negative vote. I will ask only who is opposed. If you are opposed, please ensure you unmute yourself and state this. And of course, as we engage in respectful dialogue and debate, I want to just acknowledge that it is challenging when we can't see one another in person. And just a reminder, all trustees do have the right to participate in an open discussion. You can always raise a point of order if there is a statement or action that's perceived to be problematic or inappropriate. Please remember that if you do name a trustee, they can raise a point of personal privilege and respond to your comment without allowing you to respond. So we can say names, but when we do that, please just make a note. It does potentially create a point of personal privilege. So with that, we will go into approval of the agenda. So as I mentioned, I'll just assign a mover and seconder. Trustee Archer, if you could move that, and Trustee Mulholland as a seconder. Is there anyone opposed, or is there any suggestions for amendments to the agenda or any questions? Hearing none, is anyone opposed to the approval of the agenda? Hearing none, thank you. That passes. Item 5, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? I'll note that I haven't received any in writing. Okay, hearing none. Item 6 is confirmation for the minutes from February 16th and 22nd, 2021, as well as March 4th, 2021. I'll just give the trustees a moment. Hopefully you've looked at them before the meeting, because there's quite a bit there. Any corrections to the minutes we need to note?
Madam Chair, this is Trustee Galindo. I have a question, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
With regards to the minutes from March 4th, looking at Resolution 2158, the one where the officer of Trustee Services requests consent from each respondent to have their statements be made public, and part of the minutes from the special board. So I'm only seeing that there's 3 of the 4 statements that have been included as an appendix in the minutes, and I'm wondering if I can get confirmation from staff as to whether all respondents gave their consent or if we only received consent from 3 of the 4 trustees.
I can turn to the trustee officer. If we received consent, we would have, and there was a response, we would have put that in the package, but I'll just turn to Trustee Officer Miller to confirm that respondents were connected with.
Thank you, and through the chair, yes, they were, and we received 3 consents to include.
Trustee Galindo?
Perfect. Thank you. No, that answers my question. I appreciate the confirmation.
Thank you. Anything further? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to item 7, which is correspondence. Trustees will see we've received a number of items for correspondence, including our HWDSB Safe Schools Bullying and Prevention Intervention Review Panel letter to the Minister of Education regarding bullying. We've received some correspondence regarding the final report of the external investigation for HWDSB, and actually there's a number of different items relating to that. So at this time, I would be looking for a motion to receive and file. Trustee Galindo, if you're comfortable with moving that. Seconder, Trustee Dees. Are there any questions or comments?
Sorry, Chair, just one question. Trustee Miller.
Trustee Miller, go ahead.
This letter that is going to be submitted to the Ministry on behalf of our Bullying Prevention and Intervention Review Panel, will we be signing that as well, or is it sort of assumed, obviously, that they've done the work for us, but I see that we're copied here, but are we including any statement from ourselves?
Alternate Director, because the panel did this work for us, but also found themes independent of specifically what we were looking for. Mr. Director, can you just clarify, I believe this letter went to the Ministry already, we were copied, but if you can clarify that, that would be helpful.
Yes, so through the Chair to Trustee Miller's question, the Chair is correct. The Independent Review Panel, their scope was around providing recommendations around bullying prevention and intervention, reporting and responding. But they'd indicated through their consultation with over 10,000 people engaging either in person, remotely, or through surveys, broader themes emerged that they thought were important as an independent review panel to write a letter to the Minister independent of the board. And what they did is they're no longer contracted by us. They are still meeting for this cause and decided they would write a letter to the Minister and copy different organizations, trustee associations, and also the chair of our board, and including the Council of Ontario Directors of Education. So they felt it was important that the broader things they heard were shared with the Minister through this process, through the chair.
Thank you. Trustee Miller?
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification and their work on this. Thank you.
It's Trustee Dees. Can I ask a question?
Trustee Dees?
Through the Chair, in the review, the report that came back, it was also noted that Canada ranked as one of the worst for bullying. So I'm just wondering, is it also possible to, or has it been discussed about writing a letter to the Government of Canada as well?
Thank you, Trustee Dees. I'll turn to the Director to see if the panel has been looking into that. I don't believe we've discussed that as a board, but I could be wrong. I'll go to the Director first.
Well, thank you. Through the Chair. That has not, to my knowledge, the Independent Review Panel, you can see in their letter in the section that says, we suggest the review process consider, and they've highlighted about 8 different areas, including curriculum, review, pre-service training for educators. That's the level that they have decided at this point. I can ask, but to my knowledge, they have not written anything to the federal government, to my knowledge, at this point. Through the Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Dees?
Yeah, because I know it was discussed at the meeting and when the report came forward about, again, Canada's ranking and the concern and the acknowledgement that bullying is obviously goes beyond, Hamilton, Ontario, and beyond throughout Canada. So, if there was an option even to writing to our local MP in regards to, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Dees. I will note that trustees will have staff reporting back further on the recommendations from the Safe Schools report to program on April the 6th. So I'm wondering if maybe that's an opportunity to discuss what might be appropriate in a letter at that time, so we would have some more fulsome discussion.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? I do want to just add myself to the list, and I just want to acknowledge that as we received correspondence in response to the investigator's report, I know that this is a difficult time, in particular for members in our community, our Black or Indigenous, our racialized students and families and staff. And we are hearing from members of our local community as well as the broader GTHA that we need to be looking to rebuild trust moving forward. And I just want to note that although we have a decision by the board, moving forward actions speak louder than words, and we have to rebuild trust through our learning and our commitments to action on our equity action plan, our Indigenous action plan, on the recommendations from the independent investigator. And I know that trustees have had this discussion, and we'll hear a bit tonight from governance, and we'll be meeting again, but it will be critical to engage and listen to our Black or Indigenous or marginalized communities as we do the work going forward. And I hope that through our learning and through our actions, we will demonstrate to our community that we are serious about accountability and about our equity work, about our Indigenous education, and about making positive systemic change. So I do want to just acknowledge correspondence we've received as formally to our board, but also correspondence that we've received as individuals through email as well. So at this time, to the motion to receive and file, do I have anyone opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to reports from trustee special committees. Our first report is from the Human Resources Committee, March 1st, 2021. Trustee Dees?
Thank you. And through the chair, just a couple of information items. The first one is in regards to employee and staffing recruitment update. So our HR, in collaboration with our equity team, has implemented a number of key strategies to strengthen the board's equitable, inclusive, accessible hiring and promotion practices based on recommendations from the employment equity audit. And if you remember, there were approximately, 70 recommendations. So staff continue to work closely with community employment partners to promote employment opportunities with HWDSB and participate in ongoing equity training. Additionally, staff are meeting with various faculty of education deans to review our HWDSB Equity Action Plan and Employment Equity Audit to support the work they're doing to remove barriers for candidates applying to the Faculty of Education. Since last September, over 550 occasional casual staff have been hired over several employee groups. And as part of our recruitment and outreach strategy, team members will attend numerous virtual job fairs from December through April with various institutions and organizations throughout Ontario and Quebec. And our staffing and HR operations and professional development team continue to work to promote enhanced diversity in training and promotion and implementing the Employment Equity Action Plan. Item B is employee attendance update. And just noting from the period of September 1st, 2020 to January 31st, 2021, there has been an increase of 1.38 days overall for combined personal illness days and COVID-19 related absences for this reporting period when compared to the same period last year or the 2019 to 2020. And as you'll see, COVID-19 has directly impacted this increase as these absences account for an average of 0.36 days. Finally, the employee support and wellness continues to support staff with return to work planning and accommodations, as well as COVID-19 related absences to early and safe return to work or remote work accommodations. And Obviously, supporting all staff continues to be a top priority by providing staff information on our employee assistance programs and early intervention and wellness supports and resources. And with that, I'll move the report.
Thank you, Trustee Deese. So on the motion to receive the report, then I'll have Trustee Miller as the seconder. This is a monitoring report, so I'll just turn to trustees. Are there any questions or comments to the report? If you can unmute yourself and let me know you'd like to speak, I can add you to the speakers list. Okay, hearing none. Is anyone opposed to receiving the report? Hearing none. Thank you, Trustee Deese. Moving to item 9, our Governance Committee meeting from March the 2nd, 2021. Trustee Tutt, would you like to bring the report?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I begin, can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Happy to bring the Governance Committee report for March 2nd, 2021. There was one monitoring item that was discussed, and there was wide-ranging discussion given on that item. It was the governance review and the recommendations. So in February of 2021, this year, trustees adopted the recommendations provided by the external investigator and asked staff to report back with what was actionable within the recommendations in the terms of the timelines. Staff reviewed also the recommendations noted in each case, which were part of the recommended action that can be done in the short term and what will be completed as part of the long-term plan. Staff noted for trustees that in order to continue to be transparent with our community, the plan presented to the Governance Committee would also be posted to a website under a page titled Governance Action Plan. And the link is there listed in the package, and it will be updated following each Governance Committee meeting. The Governance Committee also asked if this item could be a standing item on agendas, and staff welcomed the opportunity to provide regular updates on that action plan. It was also noted that within the recommendations adopted, references made to governance review. Trustees passed a motion earlier this year to conduct a governance review, and as staff are currently working with community partners who might be able to conduct this review over the next several months. Thank you, Madam Chair. That is my report.
Thank you, Trustee Tutt. So on the motion to receive the report, I'll ask Trustee Galindo to second that. Are there any questions or comments to the report? Again, if you can unmute yourself and indicate if you'd like to speak, I'll add you to the speakers list and then go through it.
Joined.
Okay, not hearing any questions or comments at this time. Is anyone opposed to receiving the report? Hearing none. Thank you, Trustee Tutt. Item 10 is our Program Committee meeting from March the 3rd, 2021. Trustee Buck, would you like to bring the report?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Program Committee met on March 3rd. We had a couple of different items. First was our Student Learning and Achievement Annual Plan and Student Learning and Achievement Update. Staff presented the report, which included an overview of the annual plan for student learning and achievement for 2021-22, a COVID-19 pandemic update on student achievement for the current school year, as well as professional learning for this school year as well, and data around student achievement and engagement. Staff provided highlights and shared the expanded scope for the two goals of the 2021-22 annual plan for student learning and achievement, noting that the adjustment to deliberately include a focus on students who have been historically underserved. New targets were shared, which reflect the expansion of the number of students in the three strategies we stated: investing in people, leveraging effective practices, and refining measures of progress. Goal number 1 is improving the graduation outcome for all students and closing the gap for those historically underserved. Goal number 2 is improving the reading achievement of all students and closing the gap for those historically underserved. Staff presented 3 key strategies being implemented to support goal number 1, which is the improving graduation outcomes for all students and closing the gap for those historically underserved. Strategies include differentiated professional learning, 3 core instructional practices. So the 3 are culturally responsive and relevant pedagogy and Indigenous cultural safety, as well as blended learning and personalization. And we will have progress monitoring there. Noting that the goal expands grades and focuses on students historically underserved, staff presented the 3 key strategies. So the expanded grades are grades 7 to grade 12, where before, I believe, we were looking at grades 9 to 12, and focuses on students historically underserved. Staff presented the 3 key strategies being implemented to support goal number 2, improving the reading achievement of all students and closing the gap for those historically underserved. These 3 are differentiated professional learning, effective reading practices within a comprehensive literacy program, and progress monitoring. Graduation and COVID-19 updates were provided, and highlights included 82% 5-year graduation rate for students who started grade 9 with HWDSB in 2014-15 and remained with HWDSB. We also covered the 5th consecutive year with HWDSB cohorts achieve a graduation rate of at or above 80%. Credit attainment improved for the first semester of 2020-21 from a midterm rate of 84% to an amazing 91% at the end of the semester. Over 75% of students in grades 4 to 6 are reading at the provincial standard at the end of term 1. Improvement recorded in reading for grade 1 students across the entire board, and continued narrowing of the gap for high priority schools. Key supporting initiatives were identified. So for our graduation rates, that we continue to honor all 5 pathways. We continue our commitment to student success, as well as innovative programs, which includes our SHISMs, our co-ops, our dual credits, and ArtSmart. Credit attainment during COVID-19. So we needed adaptation and adjustment to the rotational model. We needed to shift from exams to student success days, where we had a lot of success there. And key changes for semester 2 involves morning check-in for all secondary students and 30 minutes of connected time, and suggest improved engagement. Focus of student success on grade 9 students adapting to move to secondary. Improving our reading outcomes, strong instructional and assessment practices resulting from 4 years of early reading strategy and support from reading specialists. The program committee received the Student Learning Achievement Annual Plan 2020-21 and Student Learning Achievement Update. And with that, I would move the report.
Thank you, Trustee Buck. And I'll have Trustee Miller second that. So at this time, are there any questions or comments regarding the program committee report? This is a motion to receive the report. Hearing none, I know it was a very lengthy report, and thank you for that update, Trustee Buck. Is anyone opposed to receiving the report? Hearing none, thank you. We can move along then to reports from legislative committees. Item 11 is our Special Education Advisory Committee. This report is from February 22nd, 2021. Trustee Johnstone, can you bring the report forward?
Sorry, just a moment, please.
Joined.
It's on page 11-1 if you're having trouble scrolling through.
So bringing forward the report from March 15th, 2021. Board trustees will notice that we had several information items. So we had an update on Project Search, so student and voice, staff voices. We also had a CIAC nomination letter with regards to Learning Disabilities Association of Hamilton-Halton. So that was a motion that was brought forward. We also had communication from Durham District School Board letter with regards to online learning supports and universal design for learning. Trustees will note that we had a members update, as well as updates from local association representatives, and finally a superintendent's update. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnstone. I'll have a motion to receive the report on notice from February 24th. Trustee Deese as the seconder. Are there any questions or comments regarding the Special Education Advisory Committee report? I do have one question. I was wondering if I'll maybe go through the director, if I could hear just a little bit more about what Project Search is, and would that be reported to a committee of one of the trustee special committees? To the director?
Yes, through the chair. How about I have Superintendent Peggy Blair just provide a verbal update. It's part of our special education vision and model. It's absolutely exciting, and we are looking for other partners to engage in Project Search to really look at abilities of our students who can take internships and then find a pathway to employment. We have spoken to Hamilton Health Sciences about this program, which Superintendent Peggy Blair brought here from another region. I want to say Cincinnati, but I could be incorrect. But with the pandemic, Hamilton Health Sciences has put it on hold until we get through the pandemic. However, we thought we needed to model it, and we have students who are doing Project Search, doing internship in our service departments at our Ed Center. But I'll ask Superintendent Peggy Blair to provide a bit more information because it is absolutely exciting.
Thank you, Director Figueredo, and through the chair. Project Search did come out of Cincinnati Children's Hospital in the late 1990s, and it was through staff at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital noticing that there were positions that were frequently not filled, and also that they were serving young people, older people with disabilities, but on staff there were not people with often intellectual disabilities as staff members. So out of that, there are many Project Search sites around the United States and other countries, and we are one of a few sites in Ontario. And our director is correct. It's for students in the last year of their high school career to be placed in a Project Search internship. And so we call them interns, but they do work that they could eventually be employed in a similar position in any kind of organization. So, for example, we have a student in Human Resource Services working for Superintendent Nunn and his team. We also have a student, I'm going to call them an intern in specialized services doing tasks that, again, would be paid employment opportunities because we try and mirror the workplace. So in the morning when students arrive at the Education Center or any other organization, the teacher does employability skills training with them. And some of them are based on Project Search Cincinnati Children's Hospital. They've developed employability skills, but we also use the Conference Board of Canada employee skills, and we teach them those skills in midway through the morning, they go out through their internship, and again, we would expect them to behave as any other employee because we want them to be employed. And so by the end of the year, in a typical year, they would have had 3 internships. This year's a little bit different just because of the pandemic. But again, we've noticed really marked changes and growth and development with our young people because they're considered an employee. So if you're in IIT and you're working with technology, then you are using your employability skills in that service area and developing new skills. So with Project Search, they would say that young people, at least Cincinnati Children's Hospital has tracked this, that 70% of young people that are in a Project Search program are employed. Currently, the unemployment rate for people with disabilities, developmental disabilities, is at least 65%, if not greater, in Canada or Ontario. So we want to try and change that. So it is about changing lives so that people can be, receive paid employment when they finish school. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And just a follow-up, Superintendent Blair, would this come to Program Committee as part of the special education update, just to let us know how the program's progressing and if there's additional opportunities for students, because it's exciting to hear that update?
We would be happy to bring an update, certainly, and let you know the success that our young people are experiencing. So happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. If there aren't any further questions or comments, then is anyone opposed to receiving the report for the Special Education Advisory Committee? Hearing none, we'll move along to item 12, appointment to committees. So we have a number of committees and positions that we have room for trustee representatives or trustee members. So I'll go through starting with item A is our Human Rights and Equity Committee. We are looking for 1 additional trustee representative. We have 1 current representative. So I'll just turn to trustees. Is anyone interested or would anyone like to nominate someone? Again, that's for the Human Rights and Equity Advisory Committee. If any trustee is interested in being a representative, I will note this committee, I believe, meets at 4 o'clock on Thursdays, so it is a bit of an earlier time than some of our committees. Okay, and one last time, is anyone interested in joining as the trustee representative for the Human Rights and Equity Advisory Committee?
Madam Chair, this is Trustee Galindo.
Go ahead.
I self-nominate for that committee.
Thank you, Trustee Galindo. And is there any other interest?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Tutt.
I'd like to second Trustee Galindo's nomination to that committee.
Okay, thank you. I don't believe we need seconders for the nominations, but we welcome them. So given Trustee Galindo, you've put your name forward, and we haven't had any other interest, then you are now our second trustee representative for the Human Rights and Equity Advisory Committee. Thank you so much. Next item is item B. That is for the Program Committee, and we are seeking up to 2 additional trustee members. We currently have 3, and there is room for 5. So is there any interest in joining the Program Committee as a trustee member? Noting, of course, it's always helpful to have at least 4 members so that quorum is achievable. Is there any interest in someone being a trustee member for the Program Committee? And I'll ask one more time, is there any interest for someone to be a trustee member for the Program Committee? I'm not hearing any. I have been joining the program committee when they've been meeting, so given that, I might as well join as a committee member, so I'll put my name forward for that. Okay, and our last item is for Finance and Facilities Committee. We need to appoint a committee chair, and so we can go to a nomination or self-nomination. Does anyone wish to nominate or self-nominate for committee chair for Finance and Facilities? Of course, to be the chair, you have to be a member of the committee.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Todd?
I'd like to nominate Trustee Galindo to be chair.
Thank you, Trustee Tutt. Are there any other nominations or self-nominations for Chair of Finance and Facilities? And are there any other nominations or self-nominations for the Chair of Finance and Facilities Committee? Hearing none, Trustee Galindo, thank you. You will be joining us as chair at our next meeting, and we look forward to that as we get into our budget season. Thank you, trustees. So moving along, I'm just going to check in Trustee Officer Miller. I just want to make sure that we didn't have to vote on any of that.
Thank you, and through the chair, as long as there's nobody that's dissenting from the nominations that have taken place, you're okay. So
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So moving to item 13, that is a report from Committee of the Whole private session held earlier this evening. Trustee Galindo, can you bring forward that report?
Yes. Through the chair, I bring forward the following recommendations from Private Session Committee of the Whole from earlier this evening, that the Human Rights, let me rephrase that the Human Resources Committee report from March 1st, 2021 be received. That is all. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Galindo, and I'll just have Trustee Mulholland second that report. So turning to trustees, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, is anyone opposed to receiving the report from the Committee of the Whole earlier this evening? Hearing none, I just do want to go back a step. Trustee Galindo, I should have confirmed that you were accepting the nomination for Chair of Finance and Facilities. I believe you are, but do you just want to confirm that for me?
I can confirm that, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 14, oral reports from liaison committees. So the first is the City School Board Liaison Committee. We have not met and we do not have a meeting scheduled, but I will be looking to see if that's possible, even in the virtual environment, as we have a number of items that have come up that would be helpful to discuss at that committee. The second item, item B, is the Hamilton Wentworth Home and School Association. I believe, Trustee Galindo, do you have anything to report?
Madam Chair, I don't have anything to report at this time.
Thank you. I did note, I am still on their mailing list as an old member, that Greensville and South Meadow both are getting their terms of reference approved for home and school associations at those schools. So that's exciting news. Item C is the Hamilton Foundation for Student Success. Trustee Buck, is there anything to report?
I unfortunately was not able to attend that meeting as it had fallen on the same night as program. But from that meeting and a subsequent meeting, I know that the Hamilton Foundation for Student Success had issued their own letter around their commitment to anti-racism and anti-oppression and their commitment to serving our community. But no further update.
Thank you, Trustee Buck. And I'm just noticing some people are having a hard time hearing this evening. It is a bit staticky, so I hope that's not everyone. Item D is our Ontario Public School Boards Association OPSPA report. Anything from OPSPA, Trustee Johnstone?
Yes, through the chair. So there's a variety of items Sorry, I'm just pulling this up. So currently the Legislative Assembly of Ontario is adjourned until March 22nd. It was announced by the Minister of Finance that the provincial budget will be delivered on March 24th. The grants for student needs, GSNs, are expected to follow early to mid-April. Bill 257, supporting broadband and infrastructure Expansion Act 2021 is in second reading. This bill proposes to reduce costs for broadband providers associated with attaching broadband wireless wire lines to hydro utility poles. Bill 257, Protecting Ontario Elections Act. This is in second reading. Specific changes affect donation limits, MPP social media accounts during campaigns. They create longer advance polling dates, allow independent MPPs to receive per vote subsidies. Bill 251, Combating Human Trafficking Act. This legislation was introduced in February. Currently, OPSPA's policy development work team is meeting and discussing the role that schools can play in protecting students against trafficking. It's in its second reading, and a friendly reminder to trustees that if you have any comments on the Combating Human Trafficking Act, that's required back to OPSPA today. American Sign Language courses. So it was announced that starting in September, I think they must have messed up the date because I'm reading September 2011. I'm thinking they might actually mean 2021. That secondary schools can offer American Sign Language is a second language course. Child care regulations. So amendments were filed March 8th to Ontario Regulation 221/11, extended day and third-party programs to allow specified authorized recreational and skill-building programs to operate for more than 3 hours per day on instructional and non-instructional days during the school year. COVID-19, as of the morning of March 12th, 1,471 cases of COVID-19 have been reported in publicly funded schools in the past 14 days. Of those cases, 1,219 cases are students, 233 are staff, 19 are non-identified. 34 of the 4,828 schools in the province are currently closed. And I guess in a follow-up to the March 5th memo from the ministry regarding prioritization of education and childcare workers in Phase 2, COVID vaccination distribution plan is rolling out with regards to our educators and childcare workers. And I believe that is it. That completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnstone. And I didn't really pause for questions or comments in between each oral report, so I'll just open it up. Are there any questions or comments for any of the oral reports from the liaison committees? Okay, hearing none, I did receive a note from a trustee who is interested in membership on the program committee. Did you want to go ahead, just so we don't bring that back at a future agenda?
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I would like to go back on the program committee, please, if possible.
Okay, thank you. That's Trustee Archer, right?
Yes.
Thank you. And since there was no other interest, then yes, that makes a committee of 5. And thanks for noting that, and we can carry on with the new committee membership. Okay, with that, we are at item 15, adjournment. I'll have that moved by Trustee Mulholland, seconded by Trustee Archer. Is anyone opposed? Hearing none, thank you, trustees. Have a good evening, and we'll talk again soon.
Mulholland.
Left. The chairperson has disconnected. The conference will now end.